What's up, guys? It's Mr. Jamvid, and today we are back for another battle of the week. These have been hot, and so thanks to the Academy screenwriter JG, I will be reading the preview so you can know how action-packed this game is about to be. I'm watching it for the first time as well, so I'm going to be going through it. You guys seem to enjoy that format a lot last time, so let's get into it. So, this game was between two very talented Sun and Moon players. Action-packed, well thought out, and super close, almost anime-style plot twist at the end. Godlike tech when you thought all was lost. Playing through hacks, misses, and continuing to show why these players are great even when situations do not fortune them. Through even this, a great player can find a way to win, which is exactly what we hope to see from the players here at the Academy. So, shout outs to JG for these ridiculously awesome these trailer speeches. And so, this is Sun and Moon. This is a tier I have not played in a long time. This is something that I'm going to be partly remembering some things as I go along, just like you guys. But if you've never played Sun and Moon, two things to consider. There are these things called Mega Evolutions, which is a further evolution of each Pokemon, and there are these things called Z moves. I hear my phone ringing. There are these things called Z moves. Sorry about that, got a call. So yeah, Z moves are these really powerful moves. You don't know what type they're gonna be. Well, they're gonna be the type of a move that the Pokemon can learn. So, you know, Charizard can have a grass type Z move because it learns Solar Beam. So think of it sort of like how you think of Dynamax and those moves that they have. I forgot Max moves. So yeah, just wanted to give you that bit of context. I'm going to assess this kind of through a Sword and Shield lens, because again, I don't remember the exact calcs or anything like that. But a lot of these Pokemon are in Sword and Shield, so it's familiar enough. So user, I'll just call him Captain. Or Funk, I'll just say Funk. User Funk seems to have a grass core offensively. Bulu plus Kartana, if I recall correctly, really picked up popularity towards the end of Sun and Moon. Those two with the grassy terrain. Grassy terrain gave you 1.5 boost, so it's like a rain dance for grass moves. Now it's 1.3 in the current gen, but it was powerful back then. And you know, Kartana has maybe one of the top 5 attacks in the game. So coming off Choice Band or Z moves or speed boosts was just powerful. So good to see that core. Both are rocking Mega Charizards. You have 2 Mega Charizards. You have Y, which brings the Sun and is mostly special. And you have X, which is part Dragon and is mostly physical. Gliscor is also something very common. Usually ran Spadef as a Heatran check, and it's just damn annoying. Like period. It's just annoying. Only very few mons would not get punished by Gliscor. It's just annoying. Heatran, same thing. And Slowbro was there for Mega Medicham. It was a Mega Medicham counter, unless it was rocking Thunder Punch, amongst other things. But as I said, I don't recall the metagame super tightly. So user Skip has Zard, Lele, I think everything except the Zard is on every Sword and Shield team frequently, except Drill maybe. So nothing immediately sticks out to me, because like as I'm thinking, I'm like, well, was there a reason for it not to be Specs Lele? Because Specs Lele is what comes into mind. You know, typical Fini comes to mind. The style of his team, lead Drill potentially. Regular Landorus, could be Z move Landorus. And could be regular Zapdos. Again, we're just gonna have to go with it, and I'm here for the ride, guys. But I can assess a Sword and Shield game far better, even though I'm out of touch with the metagame there as well. But you know, at least it's closer to home. So because of I'd say just threats wise, I can say the Zards are the biggest problem to both. Like if this is Zard Y, like Skip's team gets destroyed. Um, and Funk's team as well is just a little. He has a little more wiggle room to switch between Heatran, Gliscor, Charizard. There are no heavy duty boots in this tier, so you need hazard control. And the hazard control for Funk seems to be probably Defog, Gliscor. This is Spin Drill, maybe Defog, Zapdos, or Defog finish. So I'd assume they'd lead to guard against the Charizard. So I'd say Funk has to lead with Tran or his own Zard. Just because it forces a certain move if Skip leads. And vice versa, I think Skip has to lead with maybe Scarf Lando. So I'm expecting a Lando Heatran start. Let's see. Apologies. So Lando comes out. That makes sense because you have to lead to guard against the biggest threat to your team. Charizard. Okay, Charizard makes sense because you're trying to guard against it. So if he led anything but this Lando, Funk would have just annihilated him. So Funk has a better, like let's say he led Zard 2. It's not the end of the world for him, but if it was the other way around. So I'm assuming Slowbro's going to come out here. Gliscor, that's risky. Well, I guess there's no way he knocks. But I mean, it is. Gliscor is damn good versus the opponent. So that's a pretty, maybe he's like, okay, he's going to U-turn or edge. The likelihood of a knockoff there is pretty low. So he's like, fuck it, I'll go Gliscor. And he U-turns, so he gets his Toxic Orb activated. And in comes Lele. Assuming specs. Probably going to go for a Focus Blast slash. So this might be, oh yeah, one of the things that were common towards the end is Spadef Bulu, which with the Grassy Terrain would shut down Lele. It doesn't shut it down, but you know, it can eat a hit and scout. So that's specs, but you saw how well it ate that spec psychic and came back with the leftover. So it only took 38%. And by the end of this Horn Leech or whatever he's gonna go for, so he pivots. That makes sense too. It covers everything that the Bulu could. Because Bulu is a huge issue. But you have to pivot there because if Zard came in, which I don't think he'd ever do. I'm not surprised that he didn't go hard Lando, in all honesty. Because it covered for any rogue Stone Edges. Because a Zapdos here would have gotten punished. But I guess if you're defensive Zapdos, you don't take too much damage. So, you know, but it does put you in a defensive position. Because you take the Stone Edge and you're forced to roost. Because that cart can sweep. Like just obliterate. I didn't really speak on Cart, but that Kartana with a Swords Dance can absolutely obliterate without the Zapdos. So that is something to consider. This is an amazing position for. Look at all these terrain changes as he goes to rocks. Keep that Charizard at bay. So goes hard into. I think this is before Defog removed terrain. Yeah. So you could Defog back in the day in terrain. I forgot about that. But the Zard, the way he's positioning it, one, you'd never position Zardex versus Finny because it's actually a counter in a way of thinking about it, right? Resist Dragon. I mean, it's immune to Dragon, resists fire, and beats it 1v1. So it's not really a situation you'd ever put yourself in. So it's definitely Zard 1. He's glad he got it in. So I wouldn't be shocked if he just went and going hard Landorus here. Or Zard. Zard makes sense. I think he's going to go hard Xander, but he does go hard Landers. The reason I'm saying that is if the Zard stays in, he's Solar Beaming. If he could Fire Blast. Actually, honestly, he could Fire Blast here. Personally, I'd Fire Blast because this Finny, one, isn't doing anything. Even if it does stay in, if it's typical Finny, Scald and Moonblast, Sun is up. So it's not doing any damage. You know, you could fear Nature's Madness or whatever. So it's a pretty safe Fire Blast. But also, if it's Zard X, but it couldn't be Zardex because if it's Zardex, you just staying. So, in hindsight, I think, depending on what this Lando set is, it could be a case of, well, I'm going to, because of the massive disadvantage this Zard Y puts me in, I'm going to have to play very aggressively. So, I wouldn't be shocked to see a Fire Blast coming out. Yep, Flamethrower and Evaporation. So, very good play by Funk there. The moment I thought about it, I was like, actually, it's a very low-risk Flamethrower here. Very low risk. You can't guard against fire, and being able to resist does not mean you guard well against it. Zard Y in the sun was no joke. Like, unless you're a Toxapex, you're getting obliterated. Or, you know, T-Tar, but he had Focus Blast for that. So here comes Lele, which is an interesting decision. Because it's slower than Zard, and it forces Psychic, which invites Heatran. So But it can't be Scarf Lele though, or maybe it does that much, and I just overestimated Bulu. What was the alternative though? If you're clearly not Sastriel, so it's probably Spadef. You're clearly a Zardwai as well. He could have went Zardwai and installed. But I guess I don't remember the roles, but I'm guessing, okay, I'm very confident Lele lives, so I can force you out. And Lele isn't. Well, that makes sense, because Lele isn't going to muscle past Heatran, Slowbro, Bulu, Zard. And so it's like, okay, I'll use the offensive pressure here. And I'm scanning now because I can't tell his sets. So I'm like, okay, well, if you had all the options, you have to. You go to Zard and just roost and stall out his Sun, so that because it only has Focus Blast, Flamethrower gets weakened. And Solar Beam is obviously not doing anything. But that does give him the opportunity to switch into whatever he decides. And if Heatran comes in on Zard, it puts you in an awkward spot because you don't guard well against Heatran. So I think all things considered, Lele made a lot of sense. But again, it forces Heatran in. So it does risky. But I'm guessing the position he's in now is like, okay, I'm not going to win by playing this in a even manner. So what I'll have to do is, like, let's say he stayed in and is like, I'm just going to flamethrower you there. If that happened, the game was probably over. Because he just double flamethrower. Because flamethrower would have done at least 60 something to this Zard. And then he wins the next speed tie, potentially, if it's a speed tie, and knocks him out. The Zard wouldn't have taken half, because Zardwai is very Spadef. And let's see if this is in Zardex, because we're going to see, because he's probably going to switch out. So it's Zardwai, Focus Blast, Big Miss, Magma Storms. He Magma Storms. I don't Magma Storm. So he was willing to trade Magma Storming for how much that Focus Blast would have done, or a potential KO if he's Zardex and EQs. Obviously Focus Blast wouldn't have killed, but it mattered that it missed. I'm just thinking Magma Storm there. What's the payoff of that? Let's say you miss. Let's say you hit. The payoff is 60 something because he's gonna take. So he took 63%. Oh, I'm tripping. It said 63. I don't know why I said 63. I'm probably thinking of something else. But yeah, I'm sorry. I'm pausing, thinking about what the payoff is, like versus a Toxic or Stealth Rock there. I don't think Magma Storm was ever the play there. You get no value if you miss. If he switches, it forces the defog. And there's nothing he can switch into that other than Drill. If he went hard Drill, okay, the payoff is there. If he went hard Finny, the payoff is there. But you force the Finny to defog, and that's of no challenge to you. Like, that's of no threat to your team, regardless. And Teleport, I don't think existed in the way it does today. I don't think it was like a relevant move. So I know you may be thinking, oh, Teleport slow, bro. I don't believe that was a thing. So definitely wasn't a thing. So Teleport was just a useless random move. Yeah, I think he should have rocked there, because he's clearly staying in anticipating the Focus Blast, or he's expecting him to overextend in Flamethrower. But even if that's the case, Stealth Rock or Toxic serve your purpose is far better than a Magma Storm, because he's probably going to switch here. Yeah, right. So all the value of the risk is mitigated, and we're back at square one. So, but he could have had Rocks up or a Toxic Zard, because Magma Storm obviously disappears when the Pokemon switches. So, I mean, I guess it forces the opponent to roost, so he gets the Charizard in for free. But he's doing what I thought Skip would do, which is using his Charizard as a defense mechanism against the opponents. So, as you can see, he's doing 44%. Sin Power Electric. So, I'm guessing that's for Mantine Gyarados. Yeah. And like a mid-ground. So without the sun, obvious. I don't know what. Let's think. Let's go back to that turn. So flamethrower, hidden power electrics, sun ends. So right here, the opponent goes to Slowbro. Because at this point, all he needs to do is get this Charizard in, and he loses them on every turn, unless he doesn't have Solar Beam. If he doesn't have Solar Beam, or doesn't have Roost, he might not have a Roost. Because I'm like, what did you substitute for Hidden Power? So he might not have a Roost. Because I'm like, he could have roosted here back, because this is an insurance policy versus the opponent's Charizard as well. So you want to roost and keep healthy, remain healthy. You know he has to roost, because if he doesn't, he's about to get eaten alive. So by this Zard. So you know he has to roost. So if you roosted here and then pivoted to Slowbro next turn. So let me see what the set of the Slowbro is for why this made a lot of sense. Because he had several options of things to do here. Because it's like a non-sun boosted Zard, which is significantly weaker. So let's see what he does with the Slowbro. So pivots to Lele. Yeah, but this gets you back in the situation where one of the downsides is, again, I don't know their sets. So you never want to look at just the replay and say, why didn't I do that? Well, I would have done that. Because you don't know, as somebody from, and this is where back in the day, people used to screw up. Man, Smog Tours, back in my less mature times, I used to think Smog Tour was just a bunch of idiots. And I don't mean Smog Tour as in the players playing, but just the chat. And me, I remember me, Joey Blunder, the whole gang of people back then would just watch it and be like, all these sideline players that have never and can never, well, I don't say can never, had never done anything meaningful as far as any results. Just watch a game turn by turn and like, well, you shouldn't have done that, you shouldn't have done that. And I remember back then, this is way before the book, this was like, you know, like 18-year-old Jam was like, dude, are you not watching the long term of the game? Of course he couldn't risk that. What I didn't realize is a lot of the concepts that you guys see as commonplace, like value, the 3 pillars, all that, none of that existed. Well, none of that was articulated until my book. So you're looking at it like, well, the value switches, none of that existed before that. None of that. So all you'd say is like, oh, damage and switching and predicting. Those were like the core terms. And now with that, in writing that book, it forced me to articulate what is actually happening, the science of the game. So now you're looking at this and looking at it like value, game plans, long term, all this. And so back in the day, people would just dog the opponents. And I'm like, y'all don't even see so that's what I mean. If Skip doesn't have certain moves, he has to play high risk, and Funk has to play high risk depending on their move sets. If it's Scarf Cart, only Funk knows. And so he's playing in a way where he's like, I'm Scarf, so I don't want to have certain situations happen. So that does go into when you're watching a game. So never just take it at face value. Like, why didn't you do this? Because you don't know their sets. What if it's Scarf Drill, right? What if it wasn't Scarf Lando? What if it's not Sash? What if it's some subset? Like, there are so many possibilities. So because I don't know the Zard set, I do think the Zard should have roosted, but because I don't even know if it has a roost, I'll just leave it at that. And so Specs Lele comes in, Tran comes in. Makes sense. Should rocks here. Right. I think that's what he should have done last time. There's a far better use of Tran. Obviously, Focus Blast mismattered, but you know, it is what it is. That's what happens when you use Zard. And as I said, terrain doesn't disappear. Finny's actually in slightly a disadvantageous position if he hit that Magma Storm, because terrain is going away. Well, actually, terrain is not going away. It just started. So let's see. So it's taunt. So it's probably taunt 2 attacks. So like Scald, Moonblast. He went Gliscor there because Sun was up. Spadef wouldn't take anything from Skull, and it covers for taunt. You don't want to go Bulu and get Skull burn. So Zard Y, pretty safe switch because Gliscor. Surprised he just knocked. I think he could have pivoted. So this is what I meant when I said the roost. Now you're in an awkward spot. You never want to let Zard in for free. But now Skip is definitely going to Focus Blast. He has to predict. So I wouldn't be shocked if he went to Slowbro. But he's definitely going to Focus Blast. Yeah. That's a tough miss. Again, because he's in the back. And I understand, like, I've never watched this game before. But, like, that was, like, the most telegraphed Focus Blast of all time. It's a taunted Gliscor. It's low risk. Right? If the Gliscor stays in, what's it going to do? Knock off? So it's low risk. You want to catch that Heatran. And if he caught this Heatran both times, this game could have turned on his head. But I've lost too many tour games to Zard misses. So, that's just the nature of that move. And you just got to know what you're getting into when you're using it. Tough misses. And he's Magma Storm. He must not have Toxic. But even then, Stealth Rock. Yeah, I don't think you're ever Magma Storming. Jesus. Because if he hits one of the Focus Blasts, it's a very different game. Which is why Magma Storm only looks like a good play there because he missed the Focus Blast. But let's say he hits the Focus Blast. The Heatran wouldn't even be around to benefit off the Magma Storm, especially if he has Toxic. But I'm guessing he only has Taunt. So he's going to just Roost Stall and he's probably going to Earth Power Spam. What? What? Yeah. Those Magma Storm misses weren't good plays. If you had Toxic, imagine guys, especially if you have Roost. If you have Toxic on this Tran, you should have clicked that or Rocks ages ago. This is a very different game if this was Toxic on the first Focus Blast miss. I'd argue it would have been over already. And it could be a case of, when you're so far ahead, you're like trying to not. But yeah, Magma Storm should never be clicked here. Even if Drill comes in, you guard perfectly against Drill. Lele can't come in on Tran. If you Toxic and Finny comes in, that's the worst case. But that's why you always Rocks first to force the Zard to, even if the Finny comes in, you get some value out of the turn. If the Zard stays in and Focus Blast, then at the very least you can go, okay, I have Rocks up, so that can't keep coming in. You switch around, boom, 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 which is why your Zard should be at full. Your Zard being at full means he loses a Pokemon every time. Rocks is the difference between that Lele dying and living, right? So, very interesting decision. Obviously now he can go to Slowbro. Did he Earth Power? Okay, so it's Stealth Rock. So, yeah, and since Focus Blast did so damn much, yeah, those misses were critical. Very surprised he didn't go Slowbro. Yeah. Right. Bulu comes in. It's whatever. Yeah, I thought he should have went Slowbro the first time. Because then all the Rocks damage. Because what you want is, he got a lot of value out of the Toxic. But what you want is, if you are going to let him defog, because this Finny has come in way too many times. And there are several different permutations you could have used to, even if you can't stop the defog, this shit should not be at full. So I think what I'm observing now is, it's something that, actually when I'm working with people, I say often, or is a common pattern. I wonder if he's in the defense house. But if you notice, there are like several turns where there's no value being taken, meaning he's not attacking. Now, like the opponent doesn't really have a wall left. I mean, you can argue for Finian depending on the Zapdos, but if you pay attention to how many turns have gone by since Funk went for an attack, like a real attack. Let's see. Is this the turn so the HP electric, I'm assuming it's electric. And the other one would be what, rock? I think, is Zard only weak to rocks and electric? And water, but it's obviously not water. Um, since this turn, switched. I believe he doubled again here. Switched, got hit, went to Finny, did a little bit of the defog, switched in, knocked off. So this was turn. So what turn is this? How do I see the turn? Okay, I might have to extend this a bit. I know this is off screen. So this is turn 11, which makes it feels like we've been playing forever. I know, but it's important that you have the context. And again, give players a break, because the pressure of the situation and all that is very different when you're playing and you don't know some of the sets. So he probably is trying to play it safe, but there are turns where the value could have been. You could have positioned the Mons in a way where he guarantees himself value without any aggressive doubles, without putting himself at risk, because he had that big of a, like, I think, an edge once he made that really good flamethrower play early on. So from turn 11 to whenever from turn 11 to here. So for 14 turns, it's turn 25. He clicked Future Sight. And I don't remember if Future Sight was the same as it is today, because obviously newer gens impact older ones. But meaning I don't remember if people actually used Future Sight back in the day. I don't think so. But for 14 turns, the most value was taken was the little magma storms. And so there's just no reason that Zard shouldn't have been toxic a lot earlier, or Rocks should have been up. Like, Rocks should have just been like up all game. Because every time the Finny comes in, it has to defog, which gives you all the advantage you need. It has to defog. And because terrain is up, the cart actually cannot get burned. Let's say he decides, oh, I'm just not going to defog, I'm going to scald or something. The cart can't get burned because terrain's up. So positionally, the cart was a huge issue with Rocks up. And it depends on what the cart is. Like a SD cart wins here. So I'm guessing it's not SD, or else if he's SD and he did not use it, I'm assuming it's Scarf. It's Scarf Grassy Terrain. In which case it makes more sense. But that makes even more sense why you should have Toxic the Zard earlier. Because depending on the Zapdos, if it's defensive, then if it's not defensive, then you just eat him alive with Leaf Blade and that card. Or you force it in, because there's no heavy duty boost, so Zapdos has to take Rocks. So he decides to go to the Excadrill here. What was that? Let me keep track of that turn. So switches to Finny to Slowbro, and then Slowbro clicks Future Sight, I believe. So there's no value being taken by Funk. It's just playing very passively, playing it safe. Like for example, here's an excellent turn to get in your cart. Yeah, Gliscor works too, but it's a defensive posture. Grassy Terrain is up. Jewel can't. It's like, this is literally like a no-brainer for cart. So let's see what he does. So he gets, yeah, like, because the problem with going Gliscor, unless this is defog. If it's defog, fair enough. I'm guessing it's defog because it had ton. I mean, yeah, okay. So defog makes sense. Because the Zard is toxic, that sequence was a better sequence. Prior, when he knocked it off the first time, no. Like, this shit should have been toxic already. So Flamethrower leaves the Gliscor in. Gliscor, once this Lele is gone, even if the Lele isn't gone, Gliscor could potentially solo. But actually, Hidden Power Ice Zapdos was super common back in the day, so I wouldn't even say that. And I understand why he stayed in, because he's like, well, shit, if my Tran comes in and he Focus Blasts, I'm fucked. If he Solar Beams and I go Slowbro, you're not fucked, because, I mean, you don't necessarily need Slowbro to win, but this all stems from not roosting with Zard. And again, I'm assuming it doesn't have Roost. if he, because he had toxic on his trend, and so I'm like, well, you didn't click that, so is it a thing if you have the roost but didn't click it? Because toxic plus a roost, got him there. So now this is a game, but unfortunately because of the misses, he's toxic. But if you imagine if he was not toxic, this is a very different game. So as far as how Skips played this game, given the situation, I can't think of any major mistakes that have been made. I think leveraged the value pretty well. I think this game could have been done earlier. As far as Funk's concerned. So now he obviously just goes for a flamethrower. Yeah, gets a KO. Gives up that. Now this Lele is a bitch. I probably just go slow, bro. But he can Moonblast. But surprised he went Gliscor. Let me think. Gliscor versus keeping Slowbro. Slowbro, because obviously Slowbro wouldn't die to any one hit. So even if he Moonblasted there, Gliscor would die. So he's giving Gliscor up. What is a defog Gliscor? I'm guessing defog, knockoff, EQ. Can't really do shit to Zapdos. Okay, I can understand the logic there. If his Slowbro, if he feels like Slowbro is of more value. So it's definitely choiced. He has to be choice Scarf card. Has to be choice Scarf card. Oh, so I forgot about Z moves. That's what a Z move is. So I'm guessing his Z moves on Lander or something. We'll see. So the max psychic, that's a good max psychic, because it does hammer away at the Finny. Doesn't really matter. The Finny was never gonna be an issue. Moonblast, excellent. Z, Z future sight. I'm listening to the. So everything here is pretty telegraphed. I'm very shocked at a Swords Dance. Oh no. Okay, all right. Sorry. My apologies. He was too big brain. I completely forgot about the future sight. So actually here. No, Lele can kill him from here. Zapdos didn't get Hurricane yet. So I know Hurricane is not an option. Sun boosted Heat Wave could hurt if he doesn't have Stone Edge. So Sun boosted Heat Wave does KO. Okay. So now it's interesting. You Flamethrower here, you start picking up KOs. Same throw into Solar Beam. Because there's no real point. Why do you... He doesn't have Solar Beam. Hold up. What doesn't he have? Because even if he switched there... Because he now takes a little bit more from Scald or a Moonblast to a special attack drop. Because he's going to lose the Sun next turn anyway. Maybe he doesn't have Solar Beam. So if he doesn't have Solar Beam, he should have Roost. Unless this is like Flamethrower, Focus Blast, Hidden Power, EQ. Like some wild set like that. But again, you don't know their sets. So you have to kind of take things with a grain of salt. And so because of that, the Zapdos is able to come in. I think the Zapdos back then used to run Discharge. So the assumption is that Slowbro can take one hit from full, or Cart can come in and knock, and then Zar can come in and Flamethrower spam. But actually, I'm thinking, if, let's say that, because he has to, well, what you could do is Flamethrower here. But you don't know what kind of Zapdos this is, so that might not work. So he's definitely Scarf Cart. Because he's not Z Cart, because it was on the Slowbro. That's why I wasn't sure, because I'm like, well, where's the Z move? So if it was like Z, there was like a Z Giga Impact Cart set. There was Z Bloom Doom. Like a Z Bloom Doom would have ate that team alive. So the way he was playing, I was like, it can't be Z, because there are too many times where he could have swept, especially versus that drill. Like if he came in with Cart versus drill and he was Swords Dance, game over. Because Rapid Spin, I believe, didn't even boost your speed, so it's not even like you can do any wonky stuff. So I'm assuming, but even this route risks a speed tie if it's max speed Zapdos. So let's say he were to switch Sack Cart, go to Slowbro, Scald Spam, and come in and Flamethrower the Zapdos. It still doesn't kill Lele from full. So honestly, I don't think, let's see, I could not be thinking this through properly, but the way this endgame is going, there is no, because you don't know anything about the Zapdos. So let's say it is a defensive Zapdos and he Flamethrowers here. Zapdos discharges, kills. How does he beat it after that? Let's say that he goes Slowbro and the Zapdos discharges here, kills Slowbro. It's left with Zard versus Cart. And then Zard. And so the Zard would come in, click Flamethrower, would do a lot. I don't remember the roll on this, but I guess like 70 something. And it's static. Well, it's actually pressure. I don't remember if static was, I think so. It do what it does, and that's if it's not a speed tie. Zard would die, then it would be Cart versus Zapdos and Lele. It depends on how much it depends on static. Well, I guess the Misty Terrain might mitigate that, but it depends on static. But he's not static, so it can't depend on static. I'm not sure how much Flamethrower does to Zapdos, and if it did enough to where Leaf Blade could knock it out, then fair enough. And then he could just sweep with, what I'm thinking is, if he's like, okay, well, I'm just gonna knock. I don't know if Bandit Knock would kill Lele from full, but I could be wrong about that, and he just needed to knock sweep, because I'm not super keen on the calcs. So it could be a win for Funk, and the reason I'm saying this is, I think it could have been just a far easier win with certain different plays that we mentioned. Okay, agility. So there's agility Zap. So this must be Z. Well, I mean, what else would it be? So agility Zapdos wins. Agility Zapdos wins. But I'm thinking, even if it wasn't agility, because I don't think it needed to come down to this. This definitely has hidden power ice. So even if he saved Gliscor. So agility Zapdos actually annihilated the structure of his team. So this is a very good pick. I'm not sure if like these structures are something that the opponent always brings, but this is a really good anti-pick, because you can use, you know, whether it be Z Fire, Z Electric. But I think had he hit the Focus Blast earlier, it might not have even mattered, because meaning like all he needed was the damage on Tran and an agility, because Z Electric would kill Tran after the Focus Blast damage. Zard dies, Slowbro dies, Cart dies, and it was knockoff Gliscor, so it couldn't even touch Zapdos. And unless the Bulu had Stonage or something, this was a wrap. So well conserved, really good pick as far as sets. Gets obliterated by Z Gigavolt Havoc. No reason not to Gigavolt Havoc there to ensure the kill. You know Zard dies, and that's Skip's win. I'm thinking what would have been a way to avoid this. I mean, I don't blame Funk for not being able to anticipate a agility Zapdos. I don't think that I would not hold. Basically, what I'm saying, I wouldn't hold it. Well, you should have prepared for the agility Zapdos. Like, no, this is not like a normal. It existed, but it's not like the first thing you're thinking about, right? And so basically what's coming to mind is, was there a way to play differently to where it would not have even had to come down to agility dose? And I'd say probably just, it depends on what his Bulu had. If the Bulu had a rock move, then he shouldn't have given Bulu up to Heat Wave and all that damage. And I'm guessing it had a rock move, because why would he have left it in on Zapdos? But it also makes sense because why he left it in on Zapdos if he thought it was a defensive Zapdos, because I don't think Heat Wave would have killed. Might have, because it's equivalent of stab at that point with the sun up. And perhaps Swords Dance wasn't the play there. I'd have to look through the game through the lens of agility Zapdos, but well done by Skip to keep that in the back, knowing that, okay, I just need the perfect opportunity. And given all of the Focus Blast misses and all that, and assuming he had HP Ice, I don't know why you'd run agility if you're not HP Ice. I'm pretty confident he had that. For all the landers, Gliscors, Garchomps, there's just no way you don't have that. Very, very well done. And so, yeah, I'd have to look it over and let me know if I missed anything, because I'm trying to understand this live. But the thing I'm thinking about most is, was there a way to stop the agility Zapdos from sweeping you? If this Gliscor was toxic, there's a conversation there. But the Gliscor can't touch the Zapdos. Knock is all it's got. Unless it was knockoff toxic, then okay, there's a convo. But I doubt it's an earthquake-less Gliscor. So there's a convo, like, did he ever have a chance is what I'm saying. If he had Roost on Zard, then this was a choke. If he did not, then this game might have been over before it even began, because there's no way you're not going Heatran on Zard. And if he hit one Focus Blast, really unfortunate there to miss all of those, the game is set. The game is set, because that's all the damage he needed on the well, what he could have done, I won't say that, could have done, if he sees the agility, there's no way he's not Gigavolt Havoc. So he could bring the Heatran and pivot it out, sack something, come back in with the Tran. And when he comes back in with the Tran, that allows for him to toxic, and then it's somewhat of a game. But even then, the Zapdos might have taken too many souls by then. So yeah, well done. So a lot of love to both opponents. It was exciting. Hopefully I could have, with my limited Sun and Moon knowledge, shared some insights. And yeah, see you in the next one. Peace.